Well, hello and welcome to Bowtie Life. We're coming down to the end of fall seed starting, and the weather is definitely changing. In fact, I just pulled down the last shade cloth out of the garden for the winter. Well, fall, winter, and part of the spring. We'll put them back up sometime in the spring when it starts getting warm. But they're done for. This one right here was covering the cucumbers and kajari melons, which is just right outside this window in front of me. And they are ready to start shooting out, and hopefully we can get a few more cucumbers and kajaris before the weather turns cold again. We are in the last day of September, September 30th, and the weather is turning beautiful. We are waiting for our Indian summer. It's not on the horizon yet, so it's looking beautiful right now. Our weather just really changed to this beautiful 80-degree days every day, and the mornings typically in the low 70s, which is extremely nice. We've had 2 or 3 mornings that dipped below 70, but for the most part it's still staying above the 70s. And we have one final thing to plant indoors, in fact in seed starting trays. So I thought I would visit with you on this one, and like I've been doing the previous 4. This is the 5th part of our fall seed starting, and in fact if you haven't seen the other seed starting for the fall, they're at the closing screen. In fact, it looks like something like this right here. On the closing screen in the lower left corner will be a icon for the playlist for all the fall seeds starting, or over on the top right corner you will see a link directly to the first one, and then the other one on the right side is just a suggestion from YouTube of one of my videos that they might think you might enjoy. So anyway, weather's turning beautiful. Let's get on with it. Here we go. Hi, I'm Bowtie Dave. So I'm doing something a little different this year. This is we're coming down to the end of my 4th successful year of gardening, and for the past 3 years I have been planting my onions in the spring. And I had heard before that for down here in the Panhandle of Florida, you should be planting your onions in the fall and let them grow over winter, and they will grow nice and big by spring, and you'll be harvesting them in the spring. Now, we get frost most years. I believe onions do fine in a minor frost. We do not get snow down here. Well, we do, but very, very rarely. It's been a decade or 2 since we've had any snow here. And so our winter is a little different than anywhere farther up north. And so the thing is, as we're moving along here, we plant our things, some things at a little bit different time. We actually have 2 growing seasons for tomatoes. We have one in the spring and one in the fall. Summertime, it gets hot enough here that tomatoes don't produce. So we can have tomatoes. In fact, I have a whole archway of tomatoes out there. If you hadn't seen them yet, go look at one of our video tours of the raised beds. But we have a whole archway, massive plants for tomatoes, and they are starting to produce, which is really exciting. But those plants have been there since the spring, and they kind of went dormant over the summer, and some of them seem to be coming back. But onions, though, I have not had a successful onion harvest yet. Which is a little frustrating, but you know, it's about the journey, figuring these things out and how it all works. And so I've heard this, and I know I heard it the year before. I just wasn't in a place to be able to do it, but this year I am, and so I'm going to be planting onions seeds. In fact, we're going to talk about the onion seeds that we have here briefly, because there's only 4, and we'll get them out in the garden somewhere. I don't know where yet, but we'll get them out there and get them growing this winter. I do have one that I've been growing a few times already, the Texas Grano. I know they grow good here. It's been growing good. They're still only about so big, so it's not fantastic. But Texas Grano is one I've been doing. It's a yellow. We have Sweet Spanish Yellow Utah Jumbo. And I've tried these once before. And I think it might have been in one of those batches where I killed everything. So that may not have been, no, it wasn't the seed's fault. There's no may about it. It just wasn't the seed's fault. Red Burgundy, I've grown a couple of these before. Not very many. I intend to grow a few more this year. Granex Yellow PRR hybrid from Ferry Morris. All these are Ferry Morris. I got them at our local Lowe's. Yeah, so that's the 4 types that I'm going to be planting of the onion seeds. And I do plant them from onion seeds. I hear people talk about doing it from sets, and I haven't done that yet. Mainly because I hadn't got there yet. I will try sets one day, but to be honest, listening to people talk about it, most people say you need to grow it from, you get the best results growing from seed. Sometimes the sets, now onions are a biennial plant, which means they'll produce the bulb the first year and then they'll flower the second year. And sometimes when you get sets and put them in, it thinks it's the second year and it goes directly to flowering, which creates other problems. It doesn't give you as big of onions. So I don't want that to happen. That's the main reason why I hadn't gone with sets at all. The other reason is because, as I've mentioned before, I am a cheapskate, and I like doing this as cheaply as possible. The sets cost a lot more per plant. I mean, a lot more. You get a bundle of 25 of them for the price that I bought all these packets of seed for. So, and these seeds have dozens, if not more seeds in them. And so, again, I'm a cheapskate. Not afraid to admit that. I know Mrs. Bowtie would probably back that up too. Anyway, the equipment I'm using, I do have some trays from Bootstrap Farmer. These are nice heavy trays. I really like these. This is my second year using the same trays. I bought 5 of these trays and 2 domes, which means the other domes are on the other 2 trays of plants we're growing right now. And so I needed another one. So I went back to my reserve back here and got one of the old Jiffy tops to put over the top of this tray. Doesn't fit perfectly, but it fits good enough to do the purpose that it needs to serve, which is to keep the environment around the soil we put in here moist, humid, and as close to perfect for the seeds as we can get them. Now, nice thing about onion, in fact, I talked about on another video, on the small space gardening video, how some plants don't like their roots to be bothered with. In other words, once they've started rooting, you don't want to mess with their roots. One of the biggest claims is like carrots and radishes and things like that. They don't like their taproot messed with. If you transplant them, some people I know have success, but in general they say, oh, it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And so you have those types of plants. However, onions are one of those plants that really doesn't care. You can mess around with their roots, you can pull up. The great thing is when they grow close together, you can pull them apart, set them out, and you can plant them in a row in the garden when they're however big you want them to be. And I like them to get a little bit big with a little bit of a bulb on the bottom before I put them in the ground. But this past year, if you watch some of our spring stuff, you'll know we planted them out and we still had little bulbs sitting in solo cups, bundles of solo cups. And now, last year, one of the things I did, I planted several in each cell, and then the first time I up-potted, I actually broke them apart and put them in solo cups next, and then we planted them in the garden. I'm not breaking them up until they're ready to go in the garden anymore. That was a lot more work than needed to be done. All I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be planting up these cells, which these are actually from the Jiffy trays. They're the cheap plastic flexible things. I do intend to be replacing these pretty soon, but these cheap plastic flexible things, they're from the Jiffy trays that you get at your local hardware store or big box store. Has 12 of these, so 72 cells, and it's what I've been using so far, so I'll continue to be a cheapskate and use these again. So that's the equipment we're using. The soil that I'm using. There are a lot of good seed starting soils, and I am not saying don't go buy the good seed starting soil. It is good stuff. I've used it some before. I find that I don't have much less success with the Stay Green potting soil for seed starting. If it's something really specific that I need very fine soil for, I will sift this and get the fine particles out of here. But that has been so seldom that I needed to do that, it just hadn't been a problem at all. So what I do is I put in this potting mix. There is perlite in here. The nice thing about perlite is when you recycle your soil, the perlite is still good. The perlite doesn't go bad. It's always going to be in there. Perlite adds drainage. The organic material holds water. The perlite adds drainage, which is the two things. And it kind of sounds like a opposite thing, but it needs oxygen in there. But if it can hold a little bit of water around those seeds a little bit, then they're happier. So I do have a bit of perlite in here. For this big tub, I probably put a little scoop in this, and then I mixed it in. This tub we took out to the wheelbarrow. We mixed it all together. The other thing I do, and you do not have to do this, the potting mix back here actually has some very basic fertilizer in it. Very basic. Some very basic food value for the plants. However, because of my ADD brain, I know sometimes I will get these things in here and I will forget them. So I want to have a little bit of nutrient ready for those roots as soon as they can take them up. This is, first off, it's organic. When you're dealing with fertilizers, you got either organic or chemical. And when you're dealing with the chemical, it is easy to burn your plants with the chemicals. Organic stuff, it is very difficult to burn your plant's roots with the organic stuff. And so I do prefer the organic. We do mostly, actually right now, I think we're an all organic garden. I can't think of anything we've used that's not organic in the past year and a half since we've been here. But anyway, this is Dr. Earth's homegrown organic and natural handcrafted blend tomato, vegetable, and herb fertilizer. And I get this at my local Lowe's, which is just a big box hardware store. It is nothing special. It's not sponsored. None of these products are sponsored. It's just what I get. I go to Lowe's a lot as a handyman, so that's where I end up. I just get what's available to me. The one thing I will point out is up here in the corner it says 463. That 463 is the ratios of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Now you'll notice that potassium is low. An onion is, well, the potassium is more for fruit production and a little bit of the phosphorus too, but most the potassium is all about fruit production. Well, onions don't produce a fruit. They produce a leaf, a modified leaf at that. And so the first number, the 4, the nitrogen, is the thing that has to do with leaf production. The middle number, the 6, has to do with root production. When you're only dealing with the phosphorus, it has to do with root production. So I want that phosphorus to be up because that's really what I want these things to be working on. I want to be working on roots and a bit more of the shoots, the leaves. Now I will be adding one more mix of, one more ingredient, and we'll talk about that at a later video. Fish emulsion is high in nitrogen, and I will water with that later on when these start sprouting up. But anyway, so we're really interested in the leaf production on these onions. So I've taken a big scoop of this. In fact, I can show you. This is the scoop I use. It's just an old recycled container, and that's what one of those is. What's in here? That's it. Nothing fancy, just a little bit of that. And so yeah, let's get some soil in here and plant some seeds. So this soil, it is a little bit moist. I've kept it moist with a little bit of water over time. I use this tub a lot for seed starting soil, and so during these seasons of seed starting, I keep it pretty well going as far as keeping the moisture in it. I just saw a bug. I thought I caught him. Oh, there he is. There he goes. We have all kinds of insects in here. This stuff is alive. So life is good in the garden. It adds nutrients. It breaks down nutrients and puts them into a form that the plants can use. So bugs don't bother me that much. When they're in the house, Mrs. Bowtie gets bothered by them, but we manage. Oh, there's some of that fertilizer right there. So anyway, this is very simple. I'm just simply filling these with soil. And got an odd one down here. This is down to the end of my seed starting trays. And I'm just pressing them down. Again, I'm pressing them down about the same pressure as you could press on your eyeball without hurting it. So I'm not really pushing down hard. We're getting rid of any large air pockets, because what we're going to be doing is we will be putting water underneath these and bottom watering as they are in seed form, and it will wick up the water through the soil. Amazing thing is, as it wicks up the water through the soil, it wicks up exactly the amount that it needs. Soil seems to know how much water it needs to do whatever it's supposed to be doing. And so we let laws of nature take over there and do their thing and do a good job at it, because God made these things to want to grow, to want to be life, and to provide for us, and so forth. So I'm just a little bit, you can see it's not very much pressure. I'm just rubbing this in a little bit. Okay, so now, with the way these trays are made, this part in here is actually a little bit lower than this part here. And so what I do with these, now you can poke holes for every seed if you want to, but you're going to see here in just a minute, I'm about to broadcast these seeds into here, and a lot of them, because what we're going to have in each one of these little cells, we're going to have a whole bunch of seeds, maybe 6-8 seeds in each cell. And when we put those in the solo cup, which is what I use recycled solo cups. And when we put them in the solo cup, they will just continue to grow and just be ready to go in the garden anytime. Okay, so we're going to start with the Texas Grano. And I am going to do two. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, tell you what, I'm going to do 3 of this Texas Grano, because this has been one of my staples. And let me get my hand cleaned off here. You can see here how big these seeds are. They're not big, like large grains of sand, not enormous, but I would just be putting, I don't know, like I said, 6-8 seeds in each cell. And I'm just broadcasting them over the top. Nothing fancy, because I've tried to get my soil down to about this level. We're going to be spreading a little bit more soil on here up to the top level. So they're going to end up with a little bit of soil on there. In fact, if you read the back of the package, it actually tells you it needs to be 1/4 to 1/2 inch. It'll be about 1/4 inch when all is said and done. There's 4 seeds for that cell. A little bit more. Now, one thing about onion seeds, they don't last. Their viability decreases very quickly. And last year, we actually grew a whole bunch of onion seeds that were not fresh, and we got very little germination from onion seeds that were 3 years old. And so we're going to learn from that. And I'm going to use most of these seeds this year. I probably will end up trying to plant some in the spring as well, but yeah. So I'm gonna try not to keep onion seeds as long as I. Whoops. Get this second layer on here before we put that in there, and I'm just gonna put another layer on here, and it's a pretty hefty layer. It's not. If you saw my planting lettuce seeds, that was a tiny seed, and it was not buried very deep. These are not tiny seeds, so these can take 1/4 to 1/2 inch. And those will start growing up pretty quickly. They're going to start off looking like little grasses coming up out of there, and then they're going to get bigger and so forth. So now we're ready for the label. Always do your labels. The reason why I always like to do my labels, if I come across a cultivar, and we talked about, we got 4 different types of onions here. Sometimes these types of onions do better for me here in Florida. And it's the same thing for you. No matter where you're at, you'll find that certain types of plants do better in your area. I'm going to do this, this Granex Yellow PRR Hybrid. I'm going to do 3 because this is another one I've already grown and I know does good. So again, same size, little black seeds. Just looks like little grains of sand. And when I plant these in the garden, I try to get the types put in the one area of my garden at a time so I know which one I'm putting somewhere. Let me get a couple more in that last row. All right, so I'm putting a little soil down. Again, I'm packing it down just gently, patting it down, I guess would be the proper term. Whoops, I think I may have taken some seeds in that one. So I know they went into these, so I'm going to do these 2 right here as the burgundy so that I know if a yellow popped up that it was because the little sweep I just did with my fingers. Oops. Oh, and I just did this is wonderful. Okay, so that is the other yellow onion that I've done before. Let me take this out here. All right, we're doing burgundy. We don't use a lot of burgundy onions, but Mrs. Bowtie likes to have one occasionally for something. So if I can grow some of these, we get a special dish out of it. So again, same exact thing. All these onion seeds are just pretty much the same, kind of like the size of large grains of sand. Yeah. I was going to say something about these onion seeds. I forgot what it was. Maybe I'll think of it before we're done here. Oh yeah, I was going to say that I was mentioning about how these little cells right here, I'm doing the burgundy so that I'll know if a yellow pops up here, I know what it is. This video is actually a personal log of my own experiences. And so I re-watch my videos frequently, and that will remind me. I'll know that if I come up with the yellow ones in this mix of red, I'll know where it came from. So I rely on these videos a lot. So we'll do those as the red, and then finally down here at the end, I'll do the other onion that I don't know if I've grown this one or not. I'm pretty sure I have, and I'm pretty sure it was probably one of those years that I kind of failed at onions, which in this particular case was all of them. So we're going to try seeing if planting in the fall like this and putting them out in the garden at a better time, we can have better results. And it's all about the journey, trying to figure out what works best for your area, because what works good for my area here in Destin, where we've got the Choctawhatchee Bay on one side and the Gulf of Mexico on the other side, and the wind blowing across those 2 bodies of water tends to keep our weather different than literally 10 miles that way, where they don't have a big bay on the backside to keep them their temperatures more stabilized. So literally 10 miles away, the weather and the gardening can be different. So something to keep in mind as you're talking to your friends that also garden. Can't always go by someone that lives nearby. You have to take into account some of the variables that can be involved. I know Gardener Scott over there, he lives up in the mountains, and just 4 miles away from him, He has people that their gardens are completely different because they're at a different elevation, they're in a different place, they're up the mountain or down the mountain, and it changes everything. So you got to keep those things in mind and figure out what works best with your garden. There we go. So the very final thing, actually I took everything out and dumped out all that soil that I spilled in the tray because that'll make a mess. We don't want a mess in here. But anyway, so the very last thing is, and I will put these in Ziploc bags. Saw a really interesting comment on one of my videos or somewhere. Someone said when you get your moisture packs in your prescriptions and your pills and stuff, stick those in the bag with your seeds, and it'll help regulate the moisture content in the bag. Well, I thought that was really a good idea. I'm going to start doing that. And I'm going to start the bottom watering. And what I do here, this is very simple. You simply put about quarter to a half inch of water in the bottom here. And like I said, that will wick up into the soil and give that seed just the right amount of moisture. And of course, that goes on top to hold it in and make sure that everything stays comfortable for those seeds until they germinate. And because all these are brand new seeds, I almost guarantee that all of them are going to pretty much shoot up at the same time. So this cover will come off as soon as there's a lot of green in there and things are looking strong. So very excited about that. I'm excited to see if maybe we can do better with our onions this year. So anyway, that's it. Fall seed starting, only one item left to seed, and it's not going to be in the Florida room. We're going to have to do it outside, but it's something we've been missing all year this year and just hadn't got to it. You know, some years you just don't get to it. So anyway, for those of you who are subscribed, appreciate you subscribing. You are my heroes. You're helping growing the channel. If you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe to the channel and don't miss anything. Figure out what that final seed that we're going to be planting is. I'm very excited about it. Thank you for watching. If you thought this was inspirational, educational, informational, or just entertaining to see me poking around in the soil, please click the thumbs up on this video and share it on your social media accounts. All these things are just free things that you can do. It doesn't cost a thing. It's just a couple of clicks, and it helps grow the community. And the community, of course, is, as I like to say, it's more than just Bowtie. It is the gardening and homesteading community as a whole on YouTube and across the internet. And as this community grows, the search engines see how important this is, and people are starting to fix their own food and provide their own food, and whether it's because of supply chain concerns or just want to make sure you know what's in your food, or you just enjoy gardening, all these are very valid reasons to grow some of your own food. Be sure to catch our small space gardening, where we're just focusing on a small single plant at a time and growing that and seeing how it grows and the things we need to do to get things to grow. But yeah, so that's about it. And we're gonna get these on our shelves in the living room, or the dining room. Sorry, we have a bay window up there where these sit, and we'll have onions this next spring. Hopefully, I'm hoping. So anyway, all that said, have a blessed day.